Okay, so we're gonna do something slightly different this week. Instead of jumping in to the theme song in the movie, which is going to be Roman Holiday, since you clicked on this, you probably know that. We're gonna start with a bit of a cold open.
I forgot
So
I needed a microphone.
yeah, so we were gonna go with Erin not talking.
I was just watching you, and then I'm like,
um, yeah. So I want to ask you something.
okay.
What is the most spontaneous trip you've ever gone on? It doesn't have to be a vacation. It could be going to the movies. It could be whatever, whatever. What is the most spontaneous trip you've ever been on?
Okay, so how about we go with there's a couple because I'm really spontaneous.
Yeah, that's what you're known for.
So one of them, I mean, it's not like spontaneous and like I had to plan for this, but I felt like it was very much jumping out of my comfort zone trip,
That's
which is
fair.
something that is also a Roman holiday situation.
Sure.
And that's when I did a little studying abroad for a couple weeks
Oh yeah.
in London, and I was like, I'm gonna just do it, and I didn't know if I knew anybody else that was going, and I booked it. I did know a couple people that were going, but I ended up meeting new friends there, and I'm still friends with them today. It was a very like transformational experience for
Very
me.
college. It's what
It was
college is supposed to be.
exactly. It made me really like I did things that I didn't expect I would do, putting myself out there, meeting new people, experiencing things in a new country for the first time. I
Was,
saw
was that when you started eating falafel?
yeah, that was my first
Why
falafel.
do I know that? I wasn't there.
We ate at this one falafel place every single day because it was the cheapest place and it was so good. So that's one. And then the other one is I swear, like, oh, how about when we just like got married real quick?
Oh yeah, that was like a couple weeks. We
Yeah,
planned that in like
that
a
was
couple
really
weeks.
fast. And then when we got April, that was really fast too.
Yeah.
We were just
And here
like,
she is, passed out.
oh, we're gonna get a dog, and then we just like drove into New York and got a dog
Yeah.
that day.
Baby too. No, I'm just kidding. That was planned. That was planned
That was
before.
planned. What about you?
I Mine was I was in middle school or early high school. I want to say I was in 8th or ninth grade. And I was at my friend's house. I was at Weston's house,
Mm-hmm.
and we decided at like midnight that we wanted to go to McDonald's. Now, McDonald's in my town is up on the highway. It's in like an area where there was like at the time, most of this stuff is still there, but there was a Burger King, a Taco Bell, a White Castle, a Checkers. All that stuff was within like a mile of each other. So we would go to those places. All Wendy's. Did I say Wendy's? All that stuff. KFC. All the time. We would go to one of those, if not multiple of those places.
Wow.
So that night, we were playing. I want to say we were playing like Super Mario Strikers, which was like the Mario soccer game.
Okay.
And we were like, you know what? Let's go to McDonald's. We called up a friend who I think it was going into freshman year of high school because our friend that we called up didn't go to high school with us. And we called up her and one other person. There were two people that came with us, and Weston and I went. He had a second floor window. We slid down the roof, and then we were like, all right, I'm not jumping off this roof. So then we snuck downstairs. And he had a dachshund who Wolfie, who
R.I.P. Wolfie.
who used to like go nuts at me. He used to at any visitor he would just go nuts at them. So we were like, please God, Wolfie, and we made it through. No Wolfie. Wolfie didn't make a noise. We met up with our friends, walked all the way to McDonald's. It took like 2 hours, and then we didn't realize that like the inside closed at like whatever time, maybe midnight, like around midnight. And so we literally, it was like, I want to say it was like 3 a.m. because we walked over to the drive-through and they were prepping for breakfast. And we were like begging them to like give us food.
Did they?
Oh, yeah, they did. We didn't really need to beg them. They weren't saying no, but like we were like waving to them from the outside. And so we did that. And then we were like, I really don't want to walk all the way back home.
Yeah. No.
So we called Jillian, Weston's sister.
Yeah.
And she picked us up and dropped us all off. And again, it was like a 2 hour. We moseyed on over. We hung out. Like it wasn't like we were running straight to McDonald's. So it was like maybe spent 2 hours walking, and then she drove us home 5 minutes. Like it was like
Yeah.
you know how like
Yeah,
that
of
distance
course.
is different.
Yeah.
And then, so I stayed over at Weston's house, and then we parted ways in the morning, the two of us, and I didn't see Weston for the rest of the summer because he got grounded for the entire summer.
I was gonna say, I feel like that was pretty bad.
Yeah, that was my most spontaneous trip.
Wow, that's pretty good. All right. Okay, we are going old school today.
Yeah.
Black and white.
Although this one didn't necessarily need to be in black and white, and we'll talk about that probably.
No. I'm Erin.
I'm Tom.
This is Baby's First Watch List, the podcast traveling all the way back to 1953 for the classic romantic comedy Roman Holiday.
And all the way across to Italy. We're traveling too.
All the way to Rome. So I saw this in my journalism class in high school because
He's a journalist.
he's a journalist. That's about as yeah. If it was like there was a person who wrote something down, then yep,
Right.
that counts.
Private investigator even sort of toes
We'll
the
take
line.
it. This movie is directed by William Wyler, who won the Best Picture Oscar 3 times. Not for this movie, but for
Wait.
Mrs. Miniver.
Yeah, and then the best
Best
days
Years
of
of
our
Our
lives. Best years of
Lives.
our lives.
And
Ben-Hur.
Ben-Hur. He actually holds the record for the most Best Director nominations.
Wow.
Do you want to guess the number?
9,
More.
12.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Isn't that crazy?
That is a lot of best director nominations.
And I'll never even direct one movie in my whole life.
No, not with that attitude.
Wow.
Your son directed a movie.
Yeah, he did.
the other day.
He's done a few.
He has.
He does not understand how recording works on a phone.
Or maybe we don't understand.
Maybe he knows like way too much.
Yeah.
He was going slow-mo and everything.
Yeah.
Roman Holiday was written by Dalton Trumbo
It was.
and John Dighton, although Trumbo was not given credit for it until 40 years later.
And I will get all into that. That's my deep dive.
So, yeah, just a little brief thing here is he was blacklisted from Hollywood
Yes.
during the McCarthy era. He was like a senator, and he...
McCarthy was, not
yeah,
Trumbo.
not Trumbo. And he was like... His whole thing was like rooting out all the communists in Hollywood. And so they had like a House of Un-American Activities Committee, and they would like try and get these people in trouble or whatever. And so Dalton Trumbo was one of the people that like was really blacklisted. Like
Yeah.
he was not allowed to be doing Hollywood stuff.
MGM fired him.
Yeah. And he did it anyway.
He did it through the black market, which again
Yep.
I will talk about later.
Exactly. So Ian McClellan Hunter kind of fronted for him. They like made it work. And
He was the guy who allegedly came up with the idea for the movie.
Oh, okay.
And then Trumbo wrote the screenplay.
There you go. And so he ended up with like everyone's blessing here, took credit for the screenplay.
Hunter, yeah.
Yeah.
Because Trumbo could not.
Hunter was later blacklisted
Yeah,
himself.
Yeah.
In fact, a lot of blacklisted people were involved in this movie, including a director named Bernard Voorhaus, or Voorhaus, I guess, right? Because it's the same last letters of my name.
Yeah.
Who was an assistant director that was listed under a pseudonym.
Oh, okay.
And
William Wyler was in consideration for being blacklisted too.
And then you had even some of the actors, Gregory, Peck, and Eddie Albert, were also kind of being investigated and things like that. So
Yeah, because they were liberals, and the people who were the head of the committee and McCarthy were conservatives. So it was kind of like a political divide type situation.
Crazy. So starring Gregory Peck, Audrey Hepburn in her intro to American audiences, and Eddie Albert, Roman Holiday was filmed entirely in Rome, Italy.
Allegedly the first American movie to be filmed entirely in Italy.
Interesting. And they were like, Rome was like, but then they were like, okay. Which I'm sure it was more complicated than that.
No, I think that was probably it. That was the whole process.
Because of this, it was too expensive to film in color. It was originally supposed to be in color. And they were like, wait, but we really want to be in Rome, so we're just going to film it in black and white instead.
Well, Wyler basically thought that filming it on a Hollywood lot would make it look cheap and inauthentic.
Yeah, and this looked very authentic because it was.
I found myself thinking during the movie that I wish it was in color though. It felt like a Technicolor version of this movie would have been amazing. Not that it wasn't amazing, but I think it would have enhanced the experience.
So this movie was released in August 1953. It opened at number 2 at the box office, behind From Here to Eternity. Domestically, it was considered a little bit of a disappointment commercially to the studio, but it did well internationally. And overall, it made $12 million on a $1 million budget. And of course, now it's like considered a like major classic.
Mm-hmm.
And critically, it was a big hit. At the Oscars, it was nominated for 10 statues: picture, director, supporting actor, screenplay, art direction, cinematography, film editing, and it won 3 for costume design, story, and actress. Audrey Hepburn won her Oscar there. And Audrey Hepburn has she ended up getting the EGOT, a competitive EGOT. She has all of those.
Oh, really?
Yep. And she's one of the, I think so.
What did she win a Grammy
for? Being cool. I hope I'm right.
She won Best Spoken Word Album for Children. That's what a lot of the actors do. Now they do like an ebook or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then while Gregory Peck was not nominated for an Oscar here,
strangely, he
was nominated for 4 overall, eventually winning for his role of Atticus Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird, which is one of my favorite roles. It's
one of the iconic roles of all time.
He's so good. That is very much he's the perfect person to play that role.
I was going to say that's a character that I don't find necessarily super compelling anymore because it's a little bit dated of a character.
Yeah.
But he is the perfect person to play that role.
Yeah. And at the and I understand it's not as compelling now, but back then, characters like that were so needed. I'm
not talking trash about Atticus Finch. I'm just saying in 2023, we've just seen more complex characters.
Totally.
But he lays that character laid the groundwork for a lot of that too. So
exactly. In 1999, the movie Roman Holiday was preserved by the Library of Congress. And since then, a lot of movies have, used it as inspiration for their stuff. Even people who deny it, like Richard Curtis, who says that Notting Hill was not based on Roman Holiday, even though everyone thought it was. Have you ever seen Notting Hill?
No.
It's all right. It's good. Richard Curtis movies. I think he did Love Actually too. They're very British.
Yeah.
Even though Julia Roberts is in Notting Hill. Yeah. It's Hugh Grant vibes all the way.
Yeah. I'm not a big Hugh Grant guy, to be honest.
Yeah, he's all right. So I was looking really hard for a New Jersey connection.
And you found it.
I did find it. So it's you gotta get connected for free. Free New Jersey connection.
Yeah.
All right. So it's kind of hard to find, but Audrey Hepburn, who is not from New Jersey, her first husband was born in Elberon, New Jersey. Do you know where that is?
No.
It's a tiny community within the larger community of Long Branch, New Jersey.
Oh, okay, down the shore.
And spoiler alert, when I went to the Ryder field hockey camp in high school, it was an overnight camp. We spent a couple days there. My whole team went. It was super fun. And one of the years that we went, there was a girl who was the only person from her team. And she came and joined our team, and she was from Long Branch.
There you go. I worked in West Long Branch for a year.
Oh, yeah, you did. He also went to Princeton for a couple years.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that counts. That's definitely a New Jersey connection.
Yeah. So there you go.
Could not have made Roman Holiday without New Jersey.
Oh, I mean, you could have, because it was just her husband. But close enough.
Was that her husband? Is that the husband that she met on set of Roman Holiday?
Maybe, because they married the next year.
Yeah.
So it was?
He was Gregory Peck's friend.
Get connected for free. Yeah. New Jersey Connect. There you go. Audrey Hepburn never would have met her first husband on the set of Roman Holiday if it wasn't for New Jersey.
The great state.
The best state in all the 50 states of the Union. By far.
Easily.
Okay. Give us a nice summary.
I'll give you the taglines first. So the taglines for Roman Holiday, there's a bunch of them, but I'll just do a couple. What about romance in romantic Rome?
Romance and romantic too. No.
You got to think of the way the posters were back then, though.
I understand.
They weren't as succinct as
Yeah,
they are now.
I understand too. The Rome.
Yeah.
I know.
There's a new holiday on your calendar.
That's kind of cute.
The gayest spree a girl ever had. So I guess that's fine.
I mean, yeah.
And lived, loved, and filmed in Rome.
I like that. That's sweet.
All right. Now, the plot of Roman Holiday. I haven't read this the Wikipedia plot summary yet, so we're going to see how this goes.
Oh, you're reading this directly from Wikipedia?
I usually do, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Crown Princess Anne, played by Audrey Hepburn, is on a tightly scheduled tour of European capital cities to promote goodwill and improve trade relations for her unnamed nation. After an especially hard day in Rome, her doctor gives her an injection to help her relax. When she's left alone, she secretly leaves her bedroom to witness city life. The effect of the injection then sets in, and she ends up happily lying on a stone bench. Joe Bradley, played by Gregory Peck, is an expatriate reporter for the American News Service, and he finds Anne laying there without recognizing who she is because, of course, this is pre-internet and pre-24/7 media.
You don't know what people look like.
Yeah, she's just Audrey Hepburn, who also no one really knew at that point.
True.
Joe thinks that she's intoxicated and feeling protective. He takes her to his apartment to sleep it off, which is a little creepy looking at it nowadays, but you can tell by Peck's performance that he truly is like, and he's trying to get rid of her too at times too. Like
upstanding fella.
The next morning, Joe hurries off late to work and gives his editor, Mr. Hennessy, shout out Chris Geraci, false details of his attendance at the princess's press conference because he was
never gonna watch this and listen to this one.
Well, we have to tell him that he was shouted out in one of the episodes, and he has to find it.
Oh my gosh!
So Joe was supposed to interview the princess, and so he's lying to his boss and said that he did because he overslept, but he didn't realize that the princess was with him. When Hennessy informs him that the event had been canceled and shows him a news item about the princess's sudden illness with a picture of her, he realizes who is asleep in his apartment. Seeing an opportunity, Joe privately calls his photographer friend, Irving Radovich, played by, what was the guy's name? Eddie Albert.
Eddie Albert.
Played by Eddie Albert, to get him to secretly take pictures. Joe then tells Hennessy that he will get an exclusive, wide-ranging interview with the princess and asks how much that will be worth. Hennessy offers to pay $5,000, but bets Joe $500 that he would not be able to get. Sorry, lira, right? Or is it dollars?
Couldn't tell you.
I don't know. Joe hurries home and, hiding the fact that he is a reporter, offers to show Anya, as she calls herself, around Rome. However, Anne declines Joe's offer and leaves. Enjoying her freedom, she explores an outdoor market, buys a pair of shoes, cuts her hair, observes the daily life of Rome. Joe follows and accidentally meets Anne on the Spanish Steps. This time, he convinces her to spend the day with him, taking her to a street cafe where they meet up with Irving. When Anya tries to drive Joe on a Vespa through heavy Roman traffic, they are all arrested, but Joe and Irving show their fake press passes, and the group is set free. They visit the Mouth of Truth, where Joe tricks Anne into thinking that his hand has been bitten off, and they later tour the Colosseum. That night, at a dance on a boat that her barber invited her to, government agents called in by the embassy spot Anne and try to forcibly take her away. But Joe, Irving, and the barber rush in to save her, and Anne joins in the fight. She hits a guy with a chair, the whole deal.
I thought it was with a guitar.
It was a guitar. Somebody was hitting. They were swinging chairs too.
Yeah.
As police arrive and subdue the agents, Joe and Anne run away. But after Joe is ambushed and falls into the river, Anne jumps in. They swim away from the dance and kiss as they sit shivering on the riverbank.
So romantical.
Later at Joe's apartment, while drying their wet clothes, they share tender, bittersweet moments. Regretfully bowing to her royal responsibilities, Anne asks Joe to drive her to a corner near the embassy where they kiss one more time. She bids a tearful farewell and resumes her duties as a princess. Upon her return, Princess Anne stands up to her courtiers, and shows that she is ready to lead and take responsibility for the role she was born into, making it clear in the dialogue that she is aware of and now chooses to accept her duty as crown princess and future queen. Joe decides not to write the story, although he tells Irving he is free to sell the photographs. Joe and Irving then leave to attend the postponed press conference at the embassy, much to Princess Anne's surprise. Joe assures Anne in words she, but not the other reporters, will understand that he will print nothing about their day together. At the end of the interview, the princess unexpectedly asks to meet the journalists, speaking briefly with each. As she reaches Joe and Irving, Irving presents her with his photographs as a memento of Rome. She and Joe share a few innocuous words together before she reluctantly departs. After the rest of the press leave, Joe stays for a while, then walks away, alone. Roman holiday.
Beautiful.
Amazing ending. I love the ending.
The ending is really good and like not what you would expect
No,
from a movie.
I totally thought it was going to be like a happy, like, not that it wasn't happy, but
Very bittersweet.
yeah.
Okay, so this movie's old.
Whoa.
It's like 70 years
yeah.
old. So obviously the fact that it's black and white makes it seem even older.
Yeah.
But I have found over the years that a lot of people who maybe don't watch a ton of movies or aren't super big cinephiles end up really liking this one. It was a popular pick in my journalism class. My sister really likes this movie. So I personally found it to be a very approachable old movie. So my question to you is, what's another kind of older movie, I would say from like 1969 and earlier, that you find approachable, that you would like recommend to someone who's like, I want to start getting into older movies, but I don't know where to start and I don't want anything boring. What kind of movies, what's one or two suggestions you would give them?
Well, I'm right. I'm looking at my letterbox right now, and this is definitely one of them. I can totally see why people like this movie. It's very... It treads on familiar tropes that we like nowadays because it was one of the movies that was originating or at least furthering those tropes at the time.
Right.
And I would definitely say this one for let me see here. One of them I would say is from the 40s, and it is Casablanca.
That's a good one.
I think it's a similar vibe to this one. It's more of a drama.
Yeah.
But I think that it has the romance factor. It has the mega star power of the two leads. It has a somewhat more convoluted plot than this one does.
It does. It's like involved with politics and.
But all you got to know is that there's a war going on.
Out of all the gin joints in
Yeah,
all the world, she walks into mine.
Right. That one has like an endless amount of quotes.
Play it again, Sam. Play as time goes by.
Yeah.
Here's looking at you, kid.
I will give you.
I've got one.
Go for it.
Some Like It Hot.
Yes.
A perfect intro to old movies. This one, I don't know if it's a musical.
I don't think so, is it?
We
watched it.
A comedy.
It's definitely a comedy.
And it's really legitimately funny.
They call it a crime comedy on Wikipedia.
Okay. It's slapstick. It's got a great Marilyn Monroe performance.
It does.
And it's really genuinely an enjoyable time. And I find that it holds up pretty well. I also think It's a Wonderful Life is a good one.
That's one of the ones I was going to mention.
That was on the other day, and I was watching it, and I love it. And I hadn't seen it. I saw it for the first time only a couple years ago. And it's long, but it's really, really, really good. And Jimmy Stewart is great in it. James Stewart. And it's just a really great movie. What else? Let me see. It Happened One Night is also a really good one, and that's from the 30s.
It Happened One Night this movie was not accused, but it was like basically considered to be like a lot like It Happened One Night.
Yeah. I also watched that in journalism class, and it's from 1934, I think.
Something like that.
And it was the first movie to win all the big 5 Oscars of picture, screenplay, director, and the 2 leads. So it's again legitimately funny, really well made, and one that like you can just be like, oh, I watched a movie from the 30s, and people are gonna be like, oh my god, I'm so impressed. And little did they know you watched like a really good fun movie.
Yeah, I got 3 for you. I'll do real quick.
Okay.
One of them.
Ooh, and Psycho.
Alfred Hitchcock, 1940. Rebecca.
There you go.
It's about a woman who marries a guy, and like she moves into his like big mansion or whatever, and it's all about her investigating the disappearance of his or the death of his ex-wife Rebecca. And it's like a ghost story. It's like a little horror-y. And like the housekeeper's really like jealous and like loved Rebecca, so she's given the protagonist some crap. And it's Joan Fontaine and Laurence Olivier, and it's awesome. And I watched that in school. I watched that in my mysteries and literature class.
Fun.
Number 2, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
Great
1969.
movie.
1969 or earlier. We're going 1969. Butch
That's
Cassidy and the
such a good
Sundance
movie.
Kid. Paul Newman, Robert Redford, Catherine Ross.
Can't beat it.
Yeah. It's one of those westerns that breaks down the concept of the Old West and sort of ushers in the new era.
Mm-hmm.
These people are obsolete, essentially.
Right.
And it's all about showing and the movie, the thing that draws me to this movie, even if you're not into westerns, is how beautiful it is. Like the way that it's shot and all that. It's amazing. And finally, I will give you a foreign one. I will give you High and Low by Akira Kurosawa. 1963. He's known for his like samurai stuff, a lot of it, and he's known for like Ikiru, and what's the other one? He did like Seven Samurai and Throne of Blood, and like he's done all these like major, like your favorite director's favorite movies, you know.
Totally.
High and Low is a very advanced movie for its time. It's one of the early thrillers. It is essentially, it's a crime movie. So this he thought that his son was kidnapped, but it turns out it's his chauffeur's son. So it's whether or not he's like an executive of a shoe company, and it's about he's being extorted for his chauffeur's son. And the question is not how far you would go for your own son, but how far you would go for an employee's son, which is just adds a little twist to that type of like Taken kind of thing. And it's, of course, the viewer knows what the right answer is, but you want to see the character go through it. And I just think it's amazing.
Good.
It's a hostage thriller. It's a police procedural. It's so much of the stuff that we see nowadays, but it's just so ahead of its time.
Beautiful. These are really good suggestions. So my next question is, what would be your ideal holiday place if you were Princess Anne and you were doing a tour around the world, let's say, and you are at one place and you're like, ooh, I'm going to sneak out and go and see. Where are you going? It's not Roman holiday. It's...
I don't know. Where would you go?
Dollywood holiday.
Okay.
I would go to Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, and I would say, peace out, y'all. And I would go to Dollywood, and I would make sure I go on a day that she's there.
How would you know that?
My publicist calls her publicist. And I would...
You hear that, phantom publicist for Baby's First Watch List?
No, I'm Princess Anne. And so I would go on all the rides, and I'm sure they got like Buc-ee's is sponsoring them or something.
Buc-ee's has
so
to
they
sponsor.
got like Buc-ee, what are they called? Buc-ee nuts or whatever. What Buc-ee,
Sure.
Buc-ee something.
Sure.
And even though I don't like those very much, too sweet. They taste like what's that cereal? That it's like
Waffle Crisp?
kind of like, yeah, but like
Honeycombs?
puffier. Like honeycombs.
Honeycombs was the one with the
It's
freaky
still-
like
no,
Wolverine
it's
guys.
not honeycombs though. It's more like puffy.
I don't know.
Yeah. And
Honey Smacks?
maybe with the little frog guy.
With the frog.
No, but I wouldn't really go to I mean, I want to go to Dollywood, but that wouldn't be my answer. My answer would probably be Copenhagen.
I was gonna say Oslo, Norway.
Yeah, because we were supposed to go there on to these places on our honeymoon. Alas,
COVID.
But I would go to Copenhagen, and I would go to like Heart Bakery and a bunch of other places that I saw in Somebody Feed Phil.
I would want to go to the fjords in Norway.
That's nice.
Yeah, but like in the summer.
Yeah, that would be good. Okay, my next question. You asked for a recast.
I did.
So do it.
Me?
Yeah.
I
I thought of nobody.
So recasting Joe and Anne in this movie, I think you have to, for Joe, it's got to be somebody who's like, sort of can play the clean cut, but also like with a hint of mystery and a hint of like, it's going to kind of do what he wants and get what he wants. I'm going to go with James Marsden. I'm going to go with James Marsden because I feel like he was sort of cast into that clean cut role, like from X-Men and Enchanted and even Westworld.
Yeah.
And then you see from Jury Duty that he's got a little bit of that slyness to him. You know, he's got a little bit of that, not deception. Like it's almost the same type of deception that's going on in this movie.
Yeah.
Where it's sort of like, it's even a little less selfish than this one because it's all supposed to be in good fun, even though that guy kind of got a little bit messed up from it. But
Yeah.
he's there to be a support for that guy, and he's been apparently like helpful for that guy trying to finally realize that like not everything is the show jury duty. So I'm gonna go with James Marsden.
I like that because that Don't Worry, Darling festival press tour day was wild.
Why?
Remember all that stuff that happened?
With James Marsden?
Yeah.
You're talking about
Who am I? Oh, I'm thinking Chris Pine.
Chris Pine.
Chris Pine would be good too.
He would be good.
Wait, how did I get those two confused?
I don't
right
know.
now?
I don't know.
Anyway.
And then for Anne, I think it has to be somebody who I think has been pigeonholed into a certain. Also has to be like the most beautiful person on the face of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
But has been pigeonholed into a certain maybe type, and so that this type of role can give them a way to subvert that type.
Okay.
And I don't know if this person fits perfectly with that, but I'm gonna go with Margot Robbie because I think that for a while in her career she was sort of pigeonholed into like just being the hot actress.
Yeah.
And then she was then kind of pigeonholed into that jokey like the I, Tonya character, which then turned into Harley Quinn, and then she was Harley Quinn for a while.
Yeah.
And now I think she's starting to get a little bit more meat on her roles. And I think that she would be perfect for this. I think that she's somebody who you look at and you're like, oh, this is what this person is. But then she's not really. She's more under the surface.
I like that.
So I'm gonna go with James Marsden and Margot Robbie.
I like James Marsden, and my other person, the age gap is just too much.
Oh, I didn't even consider the
which,
age gap.
whatever.
I don't know how far apart those two are in age.
But I think Zendaya would be good for that role.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the age gap for a second. This movie, they had at least 10 years. I think it was like 13 years.
I'm gonna verify
of an age difference, something like that. And I'm just like, yikes. But that's also very much kind of
the time.
Of the time, exactly.
13 years.
13 years. So how do you feel when you watch older Hollywood movies and you see these like gigantic age gaps?
Well, in and of itself, without context, something like that, as long as it's not like 18 and 35, I think that you can make the argument that it's okay. Like Audrey Hepburn in this movie is, when it came out, what year did it come out?
23 or 24, 53.
She was, 23, 24. And Peck was
36, 37.
30, like 37. It's not great, but it didn't take me out of this movie. Maybe because I'm used to it.
Yeah.
But I would say that in actuality, with context, the problem is not necessarily the age gap. The problem is that Hollywood was obsessed with younger women.
Right.
And so seeing a movie like this, or a movie where it's blatantly obvious that the two are way far apart in age, it makes me think less of Hollywood than it does the actual age gap in the movie.
Totally.
If that makes sense.
Yep.
And so, I mean, now fortunately we're starting to see better roles for not even older women, but women in their 30s. And so, like, I'm glad that things have progressed in that way, but typically it doesn't really bother me in older movies. I will notice it now. Like, if a movie comes out in 2023 and there's a big age gap, I'll notice it.
Yeah.
But not really back then. I think it's just what it was.
Yep. I agree with you on that. And in this one too, I didn't find it to be like weird.
No.
My final question here. So I am a Gregory Peck fan. I think that he is a really good actor.
Peckhead.
Yeah.
Greg head. We're Greg heads.
Definitely. And he seemed to be a nice guy. And so I just get good vibes. So this was recorded on December 2nd, 2023 at 9:03 p.m.
We
will
not be held responsible.
Can change.
We will not be held responsible for changes in any of these people's moral status.
But I'm wondering, like, old Hollywood, new Hollywood, current actor, whatever, who gives you good vibes?
I will tell you, not many older people Not many people from old Hollywood give me good
It's
vibes.
Gregory, Peck, and Paul Newman. That's it.
Jimmy Stewart too. I think was probably a decent guy.
Yeah.
Do we know that he's not?
No, I don't know.
I
I don't
thought
know.
the way that you said that, I thought that there was.
I don't know. He's kind of weird.
Yeah, he's a
Like,
little.
ugh.
Yeah.
A little wacky.
I wrote Margot Robbie for this one. First of all, we talked about this a little bit off mic. I just think that she's always in. She seems very genuine. It's either she's a great actress, which she is.
She's a very open smile.
She does, and she always seems like she's like I said, in with whatever the interview questions are, or whenever you hear her talk. Like she always is interested. She's never sort of aloof, and she for somebody who easily could act like she's better than other people, I don't get the impression that she does that.
Mm-hmm.
I also went on one of those Reddit threads and
Oh.
checked out like who the nicest celebrities were.
And you got good vibes from
Well,
her?
I actually didn't even see her on there, but some of the other people, another person that I didn't see on there, but just from listening to them in interviews, is Kieran Culkin.
Yeah.
He sounds like he's a great guy. Like all he does is talk about his wife and kids constantly. And
I just saw him in a movie and I was like, that's a Culkin. And it was Kieran Culkin. I forget what movie it was.
Yeah.
He was like the son of somebody.
It wasn't Home Alone, was it?
No,
He's
it
one of
wasn't.
the
It
sons.
wasn't Home Alone.
When I was listening to the Succession podcasts when they were coming out, he was on the main HBO one, and all he did was talk about when he was like, "Oh, we were filming in Norway, and I was yelling at Alexander Skarsgård's character, and I had to go up to the top of like the fjord that would they look out onto this beautiful scenery." And he was like, "I didn't even notice the scenery because I was like, I miss my kids."
So
He's
nice.
like, "I've been in Norway for a week and I miss my kids." Like he just seems like he's such a good dude.
Yeah, it was Father of the Bride.
Oh, okay. I have like 10 people here, so I'm just gonna go through them kind of rapid fire. People on that thread said Megan Thee Stallion's great.
Oh, I believe that.
Yeah, I'm not just going Hollywood here. I'm going.
You're a hottie.
That's what I said. Megan Thee Stallion is apparently great, and that's why I'm a hottie.
There you go. I see. That's why we're married.
We talked about this a few weeks ago on Matilda with Danny DeVito.
Yeah.
New Jersey, baby.
I was gonna say like all the It's Always Sunny people.
Yeah, I get good vibes from all of them.
Yeah, definitely Rob McElhenney. I think.
Yeah. Darcy Carden,
I believe that.
who I just love her from The Good Place.
Mhm.
She seems just like I think a lot of that level of comedian is probably pretty nice. Like in that genre of comedian.
Mm-hmm.
Guillermo del Toro, I get good vibes from.
Definitely.
I just think he just means so well, and he's a very emotional guy, and you know.
Mm-hmm.
Pedro Pascal, I think, is maybe one of the obvious ones lately.
Yeah.
Everyone seems to love him. Another one that I think is a great actress and could be faking it, but I don't think she is, Emma Stone.
Yeah.
She seems very personable and very chill, and like if you ran into her somewhere and were like, "Oh, hey, Emma Stone," I feel like she would like have an enthusiastic response back. And then I have two sort of out of left field. One of them, Mandy Patinkin.
Oh, I love Mandy Patinkin and his wife. They are the best.
So if you don't know, Mandy Patinkin was on Homeland. He was the Inigo Montoya in Princess Bride. He's a big character actor, been around for years and years, and he does this. Is it like a YouTube
with his son?
Something with his son.
films it, yeah.
And him and his wife,
Their goals.
who they've been married for like God knows how long. They just do like these like little clips of them two talking, and they're like your grandparents. Like
They're the best.
yeah.
And his wife has a great way to look at children. She calls having a kid an act of radical optimism.
Yeah.
And
that's
I
really
always
nice.
liked that. I thought that was really sweet.
Yeah. I think that he's great.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, this is a little out of left field, though. He was in movies. LeBron James.
Oh, okay.
I get good vibes from LeBron James.
Okay.
I think that when you're somebody who is that level of athlete, that caliber, who has been scrutinized since you were 17, 16 years old, you have every right to be a grump.
Yeah.
He's not.
He's not a grump.
He's not a grump. He's corny. He's a dad. He's dumb at times. He lies about stuff randomly for no reason. I just think that LeBron James wants to be liked. And I think that that's very, for somebody who is way above the stratosphere of anything that I'll ever be in terms of like fame or money or anything like that, he seems like he's extremely down to earth.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's a cool dude.
Good. My one addition, we talked about it earlier, Jennifer Garner.
Yeah. Or as my dad calls her, Jennifer Gardner.
I feel like a lot of people probably do that.
Yeah.
She seems very genuine, very down to earth, and I think she seems very nice. And I would like to do her little fake cooking show with her. She like loves Ina Garden, and I love Ina Garden.
Do you get good vibes from Ina Garden?
No. Not that I get bad vibes from her, but
Yeah.
like I'd be scared of
She's
her.
tough.
If I saw her at the cheesemongers, no.
Yeah.
Like I would not approach her.
Yeah. These are people that, not that I would necessarily approach, but I think if you did approach them, there would be a positive response.
I would never approach a celebrity.
I probably wouldn't. I definitely wouldn't approach a celebrity in a burdensome way.
I would never go up to a celebrity and say something to them unless it was like, oh, you hold on you have something on your shirt, like something like.
I wouldn't even
from
say
them.
that. I would go up to a celebrity like if we were standing waiting for food together or something like that.
You'd be like, oh gosh, don't you love the pizza?
Don't
here?
you hate service workers? No,
They'd be
I'm just
like,
kidding.
oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then one more. I feel like Anne Hathaway's probably nice.
Yeah, I think she's gotten too much crap for no reason.
And once again, all of
Stop
these
the
things,
hate.
Stop the half the hate. But all these things were said on December 2nd,
Yeah.
2023 at
Yeah.
9:00 p.m. So things can always. Oh, Kelly Clarkson too, and Dolly Parton.
Yeah, Dolly Parton.
All these people, I like them. And also bad vibe people. We're not going to talk about.
Oh, we've already talked about many
But
bad vibes. Hit
let
us up
me-
separately if you want to hear about the bad vibes people.
Let me just say, I know that me personally, I've had my own experiences, not like with celebrities, but like where I have called people out to you and
Yes.
my friends and been like, no, they're not good. They're not good. And then guess what? I've been proven right. Sometimes it's taken years, even decades, and I've been proven correct.
One of them was a star of a Pixar film.
That is right.
The star of a sequel, a Pixar sequel.
Yep. Yep. I was correct on that individual. So
It was.
shh.
Should I bleep that out?
I don't know.
That would be funny if I bleeped that out.
It should be. We're positive here. So yeah. So no bad vibes, only good vibes.
That's it?
That's it.
All right. I have just two questions. One of them is, do you think Joe and Anne would have lasted in a long-term relationship?
No,
Why not?
because she's the princess.
Well, let's just say that circumstances
Princess.
permitted it.
No. He's too dang old. Also, here's the thing. My thing is, number one, he is very much in his bachelor era. He doesn't have a kitchen. He's very nice. He's a very nice man. But like my guy, he couldn't even afford the champagne she ordered at the sidewalk cafe.
She's a princess ordering princess champagne.
And
I don't know what you're looking at me for.
yeah, we can like barely afford tap water. So I think that there's got to be a little bit of growing up on his part. And then the other thing is, this is very whirlwindy. She is, for the first time ever, getting out of the house. And she's like, oh, this guy, he's nice. Like, no. She needs to find herself a little bit more outside of her royal duties. And then maybe she can find someone that she's compatible with.
Okay.
Do you think they're going to last?
Well, they don't last.
But if they did, like if then the movie they were still together?
Yeah, sure.
Oh.
It's Gregory, Peck, and Audrey Hepburn.
I mean, nothing wrong with that. That's true.
Yeah, no, so I think they would.
Oh, okay.
No, I mean, I think that they both have similar like thoughts on and similar vibes on. They taught each other. It wasn't
Sure.
Gregory Peck bringing, it wasn't Joe bringing Anne around the whole time and showing her the town and everything. Like, Anne showed Joe that Joe does have to grow up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And Joe is seeing all these sights every day and living there in Rome and whatever and not really appreciating them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that Anne was able to show him that he should appreciate his everyday life more and appreciate where he's at and not get so caught up in either his work or his money or his debts and all that. And like, just, I mean, you got to pay your debts, but also like enjoy your life. And, he's clearly upset with whatever was going on in America at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps the House Un-American Activities Committee.
Maybe.
And part of the reason Weiler wanted to film in Rome is because it was getting hot in America with people like him. And so he wanted to make sure he was out of the country if things were going down. So that's partially why it was filmed in Rome or why he pushed for it to be filmed in Rome. And I think that there's maybe some similarities with the Joe character in that way.
Interesting.
But I'm going to go with yeah, because I think that's a fun way to think about it.
That's nice.
My other question. What pair of actor and actress, or actors or actresses, has the best chemistry, romantic or otherwise? You could be one movie, it could be across movies.
Steve Martin and Martin Short. How about that?
Okay. What about Steve Martin and John Candy?
That's good too.
I'm going to go with Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore.
Oh, I like that one.
Haven't seen Blended, but 50 First Dates, The Wedding Singer, come on. Adam Sandler is known for casting, or at least being involved with casting, romantic interests that are, let's just say, superficially above his pay grade. But Drew Barrymore, I think, is one of, let's say, the rare ones. Because honestly, I don't think that Adam Sandler has a lot of chemistry with a lot of actresses in a lot of his movies. But he does with Drew Barrymore, and he always has with Drew Barrymore.
Well, what about Adam Sandler and Kevin James?
Oh, Adam Sandler and Kevin James.
Yeah, how about that?
Now we're talking.
How about Adam Sandler and Julia Fox? Now that's a match made in heaven.
Oh boy, yeah, Uncut Gems. I was actually thinking, when I was thinking of the people he doesn't have chemistry with, I was thinking of Idina Menzel, and I was like, that's partially because.
But that's the whole role.
That's the good.
Yeah, that's part of that's good acting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think those are all good ones.
What about Jack Nicholson and Diane Keaton?
Great.
Were they in, how many? Were they in a bunch of movies together?
They were in. I don't know.
They were in Something's Gotta Give, right?
Yeah.
That's the only one I've seen them in. Jack Nicholson and Diane Keaton. Something's Gotta Give. Looks like that's the only one, but they were great in that together.
They were great in that.
People magazine reported Jack Nicholson thought Diane Keaton really loved him.
Of course he thought that.
Let's see. Actors with best chemistry. Why don't we go back to the Always Sunny people?
Yeah, they do.
All of them have amazing chemistry.
What about Timothy Chalamet and Pete Davidson?
Yes, sure.
In that one sketch.
Sure. I'll give you a top 5 from BuzzFeed.
Okay.
Number 5, Kate Blanchett and Rooney Mara and Carol.
Yeah, that's good.
Carrie Ann Moss and Keanu Reeves in The Matrix.
Haven't seen it.
Me either.
Well, what about Keanu Reeves and Patrick Swayze?
Oh.
Talk about good vibes.
Yes.
Both of them are good
Legit.
vibes.
Keanu and Swayze are both great vibes. And Keanu and, not Keanu, and Swayze and Sam Elliott in Roadhouse.
Just don't beat it.
Eva Mendes and Will Smith in Hitch is number 3.
No, that's a no. I just rewatched it.
We just had Hitch on, and it's Number 2 is Angelica Houston and Raul Julia in The Addams Family.
Love that.
That's amazing. And then number 1 is Keira Knightley and Matt McFadden in Pride and Prejudice.
Yeah.
Oh man, Matt McFadden.
It's good stuff.
And Sarah Snook in Succession.
not as good. Matt McFadden and Cousin Greg.
Oh man, now we're talking.
How about that?
Now we're talking.
How about Jennifer Coolidge and Portia?
What about, while we're talking HBO shows? What about
James Gandolfini and Edie Falco?
Yeah, sure. We'll go with that. Also, I was thinking, what about Nick Offerman and what's his name from Last of Us?
Murray Bartlett. That's a good one.
Yeah.
What about Nick Offerman and Megan Mullally?
Oof. Tammy 2.
Mm-hmm.
Ron Swanson and Tammy 2.
That's some good stuff right there. And they're married in real life.
They are. Okay. That's all the questions I got. There's no Roger Ebert review for this, which I was surprised at.
It's a shame.
Yeah.
Darn shame. I wish I heard it.
He never got around to it. It's on his list of great movies, so he obviously loved it, but shockingly, no review. So I'll skip right to Tom's top 5 trivia.
Yay.
A lot of trivia for this movie.
Oh, I bet.
First, actually start from the bottom. Audrey Hepburn won the role of Anne thanks to a legendary screen test. She performed a scene from the film, and the cameraman was instructed to keep the cameras rolling after the director said cut. Several minutes of unrehearsed, spontaneous Hepburn was captured on film, and that, combined with some candid interview footage, won her the role.
Cute.
They were like, we like the vibe.
What's not to like?
Number 2. Audrey Hepburn won the 1953 Best Actress Academy Award for Roman Holiday. On March 25th, 1954, she accepted the award from the much-revered Academy President Jean Hersholt. After accepting the award, I guess it's Jean. After accepting the award, Audrey kissed him smack on the mouth instead of the cheek in her excitement. Minutes after accepting her Oscar, she realized that she'd misplaced it. Turning quickly on the steps of the Center Theater in New York, she raced back to the ladies' room, retrieved the award, and was ready to pose for photographs. Number 3. As I mentioned earlier, the studio wanted to make the movie on its own Hollywood backlot, but Weiler wouldn't budge on shooting on location in Rome. Paramount finally agreed, but only if Weiler could finance it with blocked funds, which was a percentage of money that Paramount's films had made in Italy that could only be spent in that country. When that amounted only to about $1 million, Weiler cut costs by shooting in black and white. He would later say that he didn't even think about color until he was in Rome and it was too late, but in fact he'd always wanted to shoot in color and has said such months before production began. Number 4. Gregory Peck already had 18 films and 4 Oscar nominations under his belt when he was paired with Hepburn, a newcomer who had had small roles in a handful of movies but nothing substantial. Given his status, it's no surprise Peck's contract called for solo top billing in the credits. But shortly after shooting began, Peck called his agent and said Hepburn's name should appear with his above the title. The agent said, "You can't do that." Peck said, "Oh, yes, I can. And if I don't, I'm going to make a fool out of myself because this girl is going to win the Oscar in her very first performance." And number 5, when Gregory Peck came to Italy to shoot the movie, he was privately depressed about his recent separation and imminent divorce from his first wife, Greta Kukkonen. However, during the shoot, he met and fell in love with a French-born woman named Veronique Pisani of Italian and Russian parents. Following his divorce, he married her. She became Veronique Peck, and they remained together for the rest of his life. Yep. So, Roman Holiday set up 2 marriages.
Yeah,
Only one of them lasted all the way, but
that's okay.
she was, Audrey was married to that guy for a while.
Yeah, I think she had
14 years.
I think she had a kid with him.
Yeah. And then, let's see. Oh, I have my deep dive, which is related to Dalton Trumbo.
My guy.
And the Roman Holiday Oscar. And it's from this book right here. It is called Oscar Wars by Michael Schulman. It's a great book. I read the whole thing. It's amazing. It's about the Oscars from before the first ceremony all the way through until Will Smith, Chris Rock.
Covers like important years.
Yeah, not every single year, but the big stuff and how everything fit in.
And the movie Trumbo is pretty good.
It is.
If you're interested in more of his story.
After this little bit, I hope that you are interested because he's Trumbo is wild, man.
He was.
All right, so back in the 40s, as we talked about, anti-communist fervor was kind of sweeping the U.S. It was particularly big in Hollywood because the conservatives in Congress were sort of trying to stop communism from infiltrating like our civil society in terms of like the stuff we're watching and all that stuff,
right?
Which you kind of see some of now with other topics. But Trumbo, who was a big believer in union work and fair labor, joined the Screenwriters Union as it was in a big fight with the studio heads. Eventually, in 1942, he joined the Communist Party, though he was only a member for about 5 years. And his son said that, or one of his kids said that he only used to go to the parties, and that was it.
That's in Oppenheimer.
Yeah. In the House of Representatives after World War II, when the USSR was seen as the main threat to democracy, the House Un-American Activities Committee, I wrote community, was formed in part to root out communist infiltration. In 1947, Trumbo and 18 other unfriendly witnesses were issued subpoenas to appear in front of Congress. They were called the Unfriendly 19. Doesn't flow.
Yeah.
His hearing didn't go well. And he was charged with contempt of Congress.
Uh-oh.
He was suspended by MGM, and Congress approved the charge, which meant he was subject to criminal charges.
Uh-oh.
And while Trumbo was writing screenplays for reduced fees on the black market, he was found guilty in criminal court of contempt of Congress and sentenced to serve 12 months in prison. He later said, "As far as I was concerned, it was a completely just verdict. I had contempt for that Congress, and I have had contempt for several since." So you can see exactly what type of guy this is. In 1950, the Supreme Court elected not to hear his appeal, and Trumbo went to federal prison in Kentucky. Before leaving for prison, and this is a quote directly from the book, before leaving for prison, he had written an original screenplay that was as fanciful as his reality was bleak, but that mirrored it in exactly one respect. It was about going incognito. It was Roman Holiday. After he was released from prison a year later, he moved to Mexico, where he saw Roman Holiday when it premiered in 1953. Ian McClellan Hunter, who came up with the idea and was Trumbo's frontman who did some rewrites before he himself was blacklisted, as we mentioned earlier, did not show up to the Oscars to accept the award. He eventually got the statuette and put it in his filing cabinet, purportedly haunted, and the book describes it as like the telltale heart. But, as Shulman noted, not haunted enough to give it to Trumbo.
Right.
Trumbo also won an award for a black market screenplay he wrote titled The Brave One under the pseudonym Robert Rich. Mm-hmm. Trumbo said that once the press kind of figured out that Rich was his pseudonym. He would route them to the other blacklisted writers like Michael Wilson. There was a few of them. The guy who wrote Bridge on the River Kwai, who would send them to others down a big rabbit hole of the blacklisted writers. So like Robert Rich became the sort of the unified identity of the blacklisted writer. It was part of a strategy to show that the blacklist had power. And Trumbo said, "In that way, I am able to steal a part of the credit for practically every good picture ever made." He eventually got the Oscar for The Brave One in 1975 when he was very ill, and he died the following year. At a ceremony in 1993, the Academy voted to reassign the 1954 Best Motion Picture Story Oscar from Hunter to Trumbo, as the LA Times had posted a posthumous interview with Hunter, who had recently died, saying it was certainly Trumbo's story. Trumbo's wife, Cleo, accepted the award. She also later said that Trumbo had written the screenplay, and Hunter never admitted it. The Hunters and the Trumbos fought to a stalemate until 2011, when Trumbo finally received full credit for the screenplay and everything. When Cleo Trumbo died in 2009, she gave her husband's Oscars to their granddaughters, including the Roman holiday one scratched up by Cleo's cat. Trumbo's daughter, Mitzi, said of the awards in 2022, "I guess I don't feel the reverence I'm supposed to feel for these Oscars simply because they were awarded 20 and 40 years too late. He didn't get to go on stage in a fancy suit at a fancy event and make a speech. He would have loved to have done that."
Yep.
Which, reading that chapter, it's just one chapter in the book, and he's only part of it. He absolutely would have loved to do that.
Yeah.
And in the movie, Trumbo came out in 2015 or something like
Maybe
that.
a little later than that.
2018, something like that. He was played by Bryan Cranston.
I think Helen Mirren played his wife.
You might be right about that. Trumbo movie came out in 2015.
Oh, there you go.
Diane Lane.
Oh, Diane Lane did.
Yeah.
Why did I think it was
Wait.
Helen Mirren?
Helen Mirren's in it.
Oh,
Helen Mirren was Hedda Hopper. She was one of the journalists
got it.
who was big in pushing the blacklist.
Right.
Now, we watched that before I understood really who Trumbo was. And so I'd like to kind of go back and watch it. And he was nominated for Best Actor for it.
He was.
So Trumbo, he made a lot of good movies.
Yeah, he did. Hope to watch more of them.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that's Roman Holiday.
Great.
Great movie.
Great movie.
Would rewatch for sure. So does Roman Holiday make Baby's First Watch List?
Yeah.
I don't see why not. What are your takeaways?
Go out there and take a chance on something and do something that is out of the ordinary.
But also don't do anything stupid. No.
Yeah.
Cut your hair.
And you might find that you find out something new about yourself.
Yeah, I think the whole sort of message of this movie is to sometimes it takes going out of your comfort zone to help you realize that to help you self-actualize.
Yeah.
And
like Mia Thermopolis.
Exactly. And if we're going to compare this with The Princess Diaries, in The Princess Diaries, it was something that she wasn't supposed to do. Like, she wasn't supposed to be the princess. And she did all these things to find out that, yes, she had what it takes and she was going to do it. This one, Anne figured out not only that she was supposed to be the princess, but that it was what she was supposed to do all along. This was always her path. And but she got to the end of the path by herself.
Yeah.
Which I think is important.
Of course.
Okay, so yeah, that was Roman Holiday, and we have 3 more movies this month.
Yep.
We are going to do The Holiday next week. We're going to jump from Roman Holiday, not a holiday movie, not a, December holiday movie,
right,
to The Holiday, which is a December
Christmas
holiday
movie.
Christmas movie. Who's in it? I know Jack Black's in it.
Jack Black and Kate Winslet, and then you got Cameron Diaz and Jude Law.
It's another Nancy Myers.
It is a Nancy Myers, baby.
So
and it's too long.
So tune in.
But I like it.
All right, we're going to do, so we will do The Holiday next week. Thank you for tuning in for Roman Holiday. Keep on following, subscribing, doing all that. And we will see you next week.
Ciao.
Bye.